All right, all right. Let's do this. Welcome to the Midwest, and welcome to September's first mailbag. So I actually had planned on talking about a few things, but I got so many emails and messages that I have a ton of things to talk about today for today's mailbag. So we're going to get straight to some questions because they have been rolling in. And I want to apologize because last time, actually the past couple of times, I haven't been able to answer all the ones. And I had somebody be like, hey, I was hoping you would talk about this on the last mailbag. And so yours will be the first I'm going to talk about. Let's find his. Okay, so his most recent question, because he asked the question multiple times, and I apologize. And you know what? Thank you for sticking with me. Let's see here. So I'm not sure how to pronounce his call name or his tag on YouTube, but basically his question is this: when doing ice baths, should one dunk their heads for any period of time? If so, what are the additional benefits? If not, what are the dangers? So I think this is a great question. It's something that I wondered about early on in my ice bathing career. When it comes to ice baths, the answer to this question is it depends. And I know I hate that. I always hate whenever I get an "it depends" answer. But the answer to this question is basically this: are there benefits to dunking your head? There are some, but very, very few. In reality, when it comes to cold training, when it comes to ice bathing or just any kind of cold training, really, you don't get a whole lot of benefit from making this part cold. And let me tell you why. The biggest benefit that we get from cold training is hormesis. So what that is, as it pertains to cold training, is essentially this: your body and my body, all of our bodies, are trying to maintain homeostasis. So homeostasis, when it comes to temperature, is what we're playing with whenever we do any kind of temperature training. So this would apply to if you do heat training or if you do, ice bathing, either one. You're messing with, basically, you're using heat or cold to challenge the body's homeostatic system. Okay, so that's a very strong part of your brain. And so massive changes can happen in your physiology. Well, the way we do that is, okay, we're going to challenge body temperature. So this is the primary stimulus to all cold training, all heat training, is challenging homeostasis. That's the primary aspect of it. Okay, so this part down is really, that's prime time. That's the part of your body. And for those of you guys, I highly recommend, if you have questions, and this is not just a shameless plug, but hey, why not? If you do have questions on cold training, my ebook, A Practical Guide to Cold Training, you can get it on midwesternmethod.com. It is basically like having a written version of me coaching you along. It's basically, I wish I would have had this guide whenever I first started in cold training a long time ago, and it's one of those things that actually I'm updating too. So if you've already purchased the ebook, or if you're about to purchase it, it doesn't make any difference. If you get it today, even you're going to get the second edition coming up very soon, and the second edition's got a whole bunch about outdoor exposures. I touched on it in the first edition, but then I just go crazy and I tell you a lot about outdoor exposures, swimming in the ocean and stuff like that. So I did an interview with Catherine Pendleton, who was the first person to swim a mile above the Arctic Circle. So anyway, that was a little side note, but coming back to the question, the main benefits that you're going to get are from the neck down. And that's because you're challenging body temperature. The brain, the stuff that's up here, is really what's responsible, right? It's causing changes to happen. But the reason for it is because your body's sensing, okay, I have a challenge to my homeostasis. Now, okay, so I did say, though, that there are some benefits. Okay, yes, there are some benefits and there are dangers. Okay, so you can't get one without the other. The benefits of dunking your head, there's really very few. And you're not going to get like immune system benefits or a lot of those benefits that are kind of like marked benefits that people often look for when it comes to cold training. You are going to get the psychological benefit. You will, you're going to get, basically you'll stimulate what we call the mammalian dive reflex. So you get a vagal response. And so what's kind of interesting, if you get cold water on this part of your head, it's supposed to be a layover from whenever it's something we have in common with mammals that dive into deep water for their food. But basically, the mammalian dive reflex, especially this part of your face. So you can get this in a cold shower. You can get it if you dunk your head. But basically, you can hold your breath longer, and so it also causes you to go into a relaxed state, a more relaxed state. So what some people find with ice bathing is that it causes them to feel not so panicked if they dunk their head. And now on the other side, now I do have a YouTube video. Now that I'm thinking about it, I do have a YouTube video specifically about this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll try to remember to link that in the description box below after I post this later, so you can watch that. But basically, I talk about the dangers, and I'll just tell you what the dangers are. Basically, if you think about it, your organs are protected by a lot of meat and fat, right? So your organs have a lot of protection. There's a lot of tissue that is going to protect your organs, and that keeps it forms a really protective layer around those really sensitive places. Your brain doesn't necessarily have that. I mean, my finger is almost touching my brain right now, so it's kind of weird. But in reality, it's possible that if you dunk your head, you can. First of all, the first thing you're going to notice is like the strongest ice cream headache you have ever had. Okay, so you're going to get some vasoconstriction, and it's possible that you get vasoconstriction and you can pass out. And some people have had this happen, especially if you're not a seasoned ice bather. So here's my advice to you. Okay, so my advice to you, if you want to get into it, if you want to try it, I would recommend, if you're going to dunk your head, don't get into the ice if you're not sure, right? If you're just really just kind of on the edge. Stay outside of the ice bath, dunk your head in, come out, woo, right? I mean, you're just dunking your head only. See what that feels like. Or just do your face, or just put your face into a bowl of ice. See what that feels like. Kind of toy with it. Before you do ice dunk in an ice bath with your head, maybe do a cold shower, see what that feels like, and just ease your way into it. It's just not, and yeah, Gabrielle can attest, it feels pretty good. Okay, it does feel pretty good. It wakes you up. It's my favorite part of my cold shower. And I will say, the colder the water, though, the more you do want to be careful, just because, yeah, you can get a headache. I've never passed out or anything, and believe me, if you've seen some of my videos, and I like early on, I just completely disregarded this rule. And what I would do is I would just stay under ice water for long periods of time, which I don't want anybody to do. It was dumb. But yeah, I would have an ice cream headache after I got out for a little while. But it was this exhilarating feeling to me, and it was dangerous. But I always had a person there. Usually I would train with a friend, and the two of us would train together and go back and forth. Anyway, yes, there is maybe a couple benefits, but generally there's no added benefit as far when you're thinking about the main benefits of cold training. When it comes to dunking your head, it's not a huge thing. Okay, so there's one question. I got to keep moving along. So that was one. Okay, so I've got another question here. I started doing Wim Hof Method. So his name's Conan. So hey, Conan. Can I ask, do you start in the morning, okay, some of this is hard to read. I do, hang on a second. Let's see if I can, let's see. He does the stretching. He does some stretching. He does 3 rounds of breathing, and then he does his cold shower. Do you aim for a specific time of day, or do you break it up? So, okay, so I get to kind of clarify this question. So what he does, this Conan, he does all of his stuff all at once. So he'll wake up, so he's talking about Wim Hof Method here. So he'll do Wim Hof Method breathing, and then he'll do some stretching, and then he'll take a cold shower. And he says, is that okay, or can I space it out throughout the day? Personally, I always space it out throughout the day, not because of any kind of like benefits to doing so, but simply because of the time of day that I do these things and like my schedule. So for instance, I'll get up, I have a family, and I could get up earlier. Yeah, I could get up earlier and take an ice bath first thing in the morning. And I've done that before. But normally what I do is I'll wake up, I'll do about 20 minutes of breath work. So some of that is, it's always based in some kind of superventilation. And most of the time it's Wim Hof Method style breath work. A lot of times I'll throw in Bastrika. I'll start with Bastrika. I'll do some Wim Hof Method breath work. And just kind of depending on what I need at the time, I'll do different breathing techniques. And then I usually don't take my ice bath till the afternoon or evening. And some of that depends on my workouts. I don't want to take an ice bath right after I get done working out. Generally, and that goes to, I want there to be a little bit of time where my body registers the workout so that it can grow more muscle. And I don't want to have a really strong anti-inflammation, kick right after a muscle building workout. So normally I'll do my breath work in the morning, my cold in the evening, and then I try to stay physical all day if I can, but it's not always that easy. So that's basically what I do. Let's see here. Let's see. Bang Your Head says, I do cold shower, then 3 rounds of Wim Hof Method breathing in the morning, and my day is all downhill from there. So, well, I would hate for your day to be all downhill from there. But yeah, when it comes to the idea is that you're setting yourself up for a good day. But yeah, sometimes people do cold before they do the breathing. When it comes to the scientific studies on Wim Hof Method, I've surprised some of the scientists when I tell them that I don't do them right back to back, and that because there are most of the scientists that are doing the research are under the impression that you have to do one after the next, and so it's not set in stone like that. Wim, anytime we do workshops, we don't do breath work then immediately go into the cold. So you can space them out, or you can do one right after the next. It's really up to you how you want to do it if you're practicing Wim Hof Method. Okay, let's see here. More questions here. Got something weird in my eye. Let's see here. So, okay, so I've got one here. Let's see. Talking about anytime. Okay, so it's anytime I get into the cold, when it's cold outside, cold air in parentheses, I feel my sinuses stuff up, and I start to looks like he has mucus or basically he's going to have snot coming out his nose. Is there something wrong? Okay, so I actually do have a video about this that I put up on the web, on my YouTube channel, that I go into it in a little bit more detail. No, there's nothing wrong with you if you have a runny nose in the cold. And so actually, funny story about that. So if you go to Poland, or if you ever train with Wim and you're climbing mountains in the snow, maybe I've done that a few times with Wim. So we're in the cold, it's not uncommon to see people doing the whole snot rocket. If you don't know what that is, it's where you kind of, that you get the snot that comes out. And people do that a lot. If you're worried about your like mucus coming out of your nose, think about the color of the mucus. Is it white? Is it green? Is it clear? If it's clear and runny, it's just your nasal passages trying to maintain some lubrication and avoid irritation due to dry air. That's really all it is. And whenever the air is cold, the air is going to be drier because it can't keep as much condensation in it. And so that's where that comes from. All right, let's see here. Where's another one? I had a ton of them, and let's see. Okay, so I have a question here and I'm not sure how to pronounce the tag here, but I think it's a Mailbag. He says, I go to the river with a bicycle and I stay in the cold water for 5 minutes, then immediately turn back home. Is this smart? And he says, sorry for his bad English. Okay, so I don't know. And the thing is, I get a lot of questions like this. And let's just kind of talk about these broad type of a question. So I get a lot of questions like this. And the thing is, it always depends. And I want to just kind of make it clear that when it comes to cold training, okay, whether you're doing Wim Hof Method or whether you're just doing cold training, right? If you got my ebook, you don't have to do Wim Hof Method. You could just do cold training. There's tons of benefits to cold training. In fact, if it were a drug, people wouldn't believe you. People wouldn't believe you that there is a drug that had so many awesome benefits. But anyway, when it comes to cold training, a lot of times I'll get questions that are a little general, kind of like this one. And I do appreciate the question. So I don't want to make it sound like, it's not a dumb question. But one of the things that I want to kind of, I guess, hammer home is that it always depends. So I don't know how long you've been training in the cold, and I don't know how cold the air is. I don't know how cold the water is. So let's just suppose it's your first day and it's below freezing. Well, no, that's a terrible idea. I remember when I first started doing serious cold training. It was whenever I was, let's see, it was back in 2016. And I'm talking like it was whenever I was really trying to push the limits. I went over to my brother-in-law's, my sister and my brother-in-law's house. They have a stream behind their house. It was February or March, and in the Midwest, those are some of the coldest months we have. The water on the side of the stream, it was just pure ice. And the only reason why the middle wasn't ice was because it was running water. It was pretty deep and it was flowing pretty quickly. I got in there and I had a goal set. I had been taking ice baths not regularly, but I had taken quite a few ice baths. And I felt like, okay, I'll get in here for 10 minutes. And this is a major problem because what we do so often as cold trainers is we realize, hey, I don't get this opportunity very often. I want to get the most out of it, right? And that is great if you're going to like an all-you-can-eat buffet, but it's not a good idea when you're dealing with something that is a deadly force. So I got into this to the creek, and I started, I calmed my breathing, and I was adapting, and I felt really good. And I had my brother-in-law time me, and I said, tell me whenever it's been 5 minutes, and then tell me whenever it's been 8 minutes, and then tell me when it's been 10 minutes. I was really comfortable in it, and I was adapted up until about 5 minutes in at this time. And then I started to feel really cold, but I was only 5 minutes in and I had this goal of 10 minutes. So what did I do? Was I smart and did I get out? No. I stayed in and I started to really feel cold. And then I started to not feel so cold. And I was like, cool, I've adapted again. And that is a dangerous place to be because what I was really experiencing was severe after drop, but it wasn't even after the cold exposure. It was during. And so here I was, I got out and I was I was feeling pretty good for the first 30 seconds. And then I started to lose like power. Like it was weird. It was like I all the energy that I had in my body started to leave really, really fast. And I didn't want to worry my brother-in-law, so I acted like, yeah, it's cool. And I made the mistake, and it was cold, really cold out. I made the mistake of getting in my car and driving home. And of course, when I got in my car, what did I do? Another dumb move. I turned the heater on. And so when you turn the heater on, what you do, your skin, especially your brain stem, it realizes, well, hey, I'm in a warm area. I guess I need to open up my blood vessels. Well, what that did is it hastened the circulation of overly cool blood through my system. And I was experiencing really close to hypothermia. You know, I took my temperature. It wasn't hypothermia. When I got home, I took the temperature. It wasn't hypothermia, but it was pretty close. And then I got in the shower and I stayed in the shower, taking a hot shower for I don't even know how long. Couldn't get warm. I was shivering in like scalding hot water. And it was because I pushed myself too hard. Now, if you take me back the following year in 2017, I did that no problem. No problem. Take me back 2018, no problem. No problem at all. You take me back in 2019, no problem. You take me back now, you know, I haven't, one of the weird things that's happened to me recently, I haven't been able to take long, and I really haven't cared to take long ice baths this past year. I just really haven't been training for that. So I'm not really confident. I know that, you know, I know that I could do it. It's just one of those things where, would it be a smart idea? Would I be toying with danger? Well, first of all, I wouldn't be so dumb as to make myself stay in the cold for 10 minutes if I was, because I'm really good at listening to myself now. And that's one of the skills you learn whenever you train in the cold. You start listening to what we call the inner voice, or what we call proprioception, which is one of your senses. You know, they say we have 5 senses, but we have lots more than that. One of the senses is called it's not proprioception. It's introspection. Oh my God. Introception. And basically what that is it's your ability to be mindful of subtle changes within your body. And so you get really good at it. And so even though I probably could, maybe not, you know, make it 10 minutes without having any after drop in running, freezing water. Even if, you know, if I got in there and 4 minutes passed and I'm like, nope, I would get out and I wouldn't worry about it because I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I'm doing this for my health. I'm doing it to live a longer, healthier life. And that's all, you know. So I think it all comes down to, don't necessarily get married to the clock, right? If you're going down there, like this particular question said, I'm going down there for 5 minutes. Is that okay? It might be, it might not be. And that's why we have to listen to ourselves. I'm all about timing yourself. Like if you've gotten my ebook, a practical guide to cold training, I do give you a training guide. I give you a basic schedule and I tell you how to start, where to start as far as time, where to start as far as temperature, how that should look, especially for your first 6 months to a year. And then I talk about how eventually you're going to know. Eventually you'll know how long I should stay in. And it's going to change. Some days you'll be like, I could stay in all day. I'm not even, my inner voice is not screaming. It's not saying get out. Awesome. And then the very next day, it might just be a couple minutes. You're like, okay, I'm done. And we have to be self-aware and not so into our egos in order to avoid that problem. Because man, your ego can get you in trouble. Believe me, I am living I'm surprised that I'm still living proof that your ego can get in your way. It really has been a humbling experience. All right, let's take a quick look at some questions. Hey, Tim, greetings from the Midwest. I love your food in Greece. So thank you for that. We have an awesome, I know a lot of Greeks here in the Midwest. Let's see. Hey, Midwest, is it bad to combine caffeine and cold showers and cold exposure during the winter? That's a great question. So caffeine is a vasoconstrictor. Okay. So, and it's also something that is going to put you in a state of fight or flight. So it's a chemically induced state of fight or flight. And okay, so is that bad? Not necessarily. However, in my experience, and I always encourage people to kind of just test it. In my experience, if I go into a cold exposure caffeinated, I'm going to feel cold early on. So what I mean by that is maybe I'm not cold, but I'm going to feel cold. And when you have vasoconstriction along your skin, you'll naturally feel cold. Some people talk about drinking coffee in the summertime to cool off. I know a guy who does that, and I thought, but that's a hot drink, man. That's kind of weird. But he says, well, I don't know what it is, but I get good and caffeinated and I feel cooler. And I don't know if, he's a weird guy anyway. I know a lot of weird people. They're cool people, but weird nonetheless. So I would recommend against getting very caffeinated. Yeah, if you wake up, you have a cup of coffee, great. But don't drink like a energy drink or, like a bunch of caffeine and then go do cold exposure, because you might find that it's more difficult to adapt and it's harder to get control of your breath because you'll already be in a state of fight or flight. When we get into the cold, our brain stems put us into a state of fight or flight because it is a dangerous situation that our body recognizes. And our goal is to calm ourselves down to get out of that state of fight or flight. And really, that's one of the best benefits of cold training for me. So I would say it's not the end of the world. And, we're all we're all different. So we're all going to react a little bit differently, also, I don't know what a lot of caffeine would be to you. Like, for instance, there was a time, man, when I was writing this book, I was over caffeinating. And whenever my kids were little, I over caffeinated. Like I was taking in like 400 milligrams of caffeine, which is actually not a lot by modern standards. Nowadays, in America, and for my European friends, you're like, what? When I was in Poland, people just couldn't wrap their heads around how much caffeine we Americans take in. But yeah, I over caffeinated, and I found that it was harder to get into the cold, or harder really to do anything that required a lot of focus. But at the same time, if you are used to taking a lot of caffeine, you're going to need a little bit just to I guess, wake up and get some focus at all. So there's a happy medium to a lot of that. Let's see here. Chuck, any suggestions about breathing techniques while distance running? Any impressions about oxygen advantage? Thanks. Keep up all the great work. Well, thanks, Chuck. So when it comes to, this is actually something I train. I'm a breath coach, and so I have clients, and it depends. One of the things, okay, so let's just talk about this, because this is, I think, is an important thing to get out there, and it's a good distinction to make. So when it comes to breathing while you're running, okay, so if you're an endurance runner, I can give some general advice that would kind of apply to everybody. But like, for instance, yesterday I took on a new client. He's an MMA fighter, just really good shape. He does jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, runs all the time, resting heart rate around 50. We're talking really healthy guy. I think I got, it was between 50 and 55 beats per minute. So, I mean, a very healthy, and he's undefeated MMA in Indiana. So I did some assessments on him, and it's something that only, I can assess breathing, and I made some assessments, and he had all kinds of breathing dysfunctions, and he had, which I love. Okay. And and the thing is, I always explain to my clients how awesome it is to find breathing dysfunction, because if you have a breathing dysfunction and you're already functioning well, like this guy is an undefeated MMA guy here in Indiana, in the kind of the Midwestern area. I'm like, just imagine how awesome you're going to perform once we fix these breathing dysfunctions, because they're holding you back, man. And so I can give some general advice, and I will here in a second, but I would encourage everybody to look at, and of course, here I am, I'm a breath coach, so I'm an advocate for breath coaches, but I would encourage everybody to try to find some kind of a breath coach, someone who can take a look at your breathing patterns, your breathing mechanics, someone who can test some of the some of the attributes of your breathing. And the reason for that is because it's very difficult to do it for yourself, and it's something that athletes commonly have breathing dysfunctions. And if I give you, and I can give you like a breathing session, like my Patreon members, if anybody is here from my Patreon club, this month I gave a 10-minute breathing session for athletes. Okay. So to improve your CO2 tolerance so that you have more endurance, better circulation, all those things. I guess while I'm plugging things, check out my Patreon page. It's on my YouTube channel. You can find it. It's like $5 a month. It's super cheap, and we have a lot of fun. But the point is, you're never going to get optimal results until you know for a fact you have optimal breathing mechanics. So just having said that, and thank you for the question, because that's something that's important. I think the most common question that I get is, hey, is there an app out there that's good for breath work? And I'm like, yeah, there are apps out there that are great, I guess. I don't really have any recommendations, but if your mechanics are all wrong, it doesn't matter how often you practice breath work. It's like running with a bad gait or bad form. Practice makes permanent, right? Practice doesn't always make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So if you practice and you have poor mechanics, over time, you're just going to get really good at having poor mechanics when it comes to your breathing. But having said that, my number one thing, Shane, let's see, your name. I have Chuck. My number one piece of advice for you is to take the Oxygen Advantage advice. So I do like the Oxygen Advantage. Many of my friends are Oxygen Advantage coaches. I never got certified in it. I just knew the stuff, and I just never did take the time or spend the insane amount of money to get that certification. But a lot of what I'll recommend for my athletes is in that philosophy. It's not necessarily the things that are in the book. So next month, or at the end of this month, whenever I come out with my book, I have regimens for you. So buy my book. It's a practical guide to breath work. But just to get you started, my number one suggestion: breathe through your nose all the time. Your nose was meant for breathing. And so if you're using nasal breathing all the time, basically calibrate your running to how fast you can run with nasal breathing. And what'll happen is, if you hold yourself to that standard over a long period of time, you'll be able to breathe better through your nose. Actually, your nose is one of those weird things. If you don't use it, you lose it. So the more you use your nose in athletic pursuits, the better you'll be able to breathe over time. The other thing is, you're going to be able to take advantage of nitric oxide, all the things the oxygen, if you've read the book, the Oxygen Advantage covers these things, but you take advantage of nitric oxide. You actually activate your diaphragm more effectively whenever you nasal breathe. So try to run with, one of the things I have my athletes do sometimes, because I catch them cheating, is I'll have them chew gum while running, or I'll have them chew gum while doing something, so that it reminds them, I can't breathe through here, I'll choke. I don't know. Is that, maybe maybe that's too cruel, but the idea is like, if I breathe too much through my mouth, when I have something in it, I'll inhale it and I'll choke to death. And that's what I tell them. But maybe that's not nice. But the point is, that's a little trick. Some people tape their mouth shut. I think that is kind of, I have nothing against it, but I think it's easier to chew gum, or just to have the discipline to breathe through your nose. The other thing is, I would recommend to try to keep your inhales and exhales, really try to lengthen your breaths. So just as you would lengthen your stride, lengthen your breath, and take fewer breaths per minute. This takes time, an enormous amount of discipline. For my Hoffers, right? I think one of the beautiful things about Wim Hof Method technique breathing, any superventilation protocol, is that it feels great. When we're becoming better athletes, oftentimes some of these breathing techniques, they're not the get high on your own supply type of breathing. They're the kind of breathing that, man, it makes it more uncomfortable as you train. I'm sorry, I can't make CO2 into a pleasant experience. CO2 is just naturally a unpleasant thing. But as you get used to it, life becomes better in every way. You become more comfortable under stress. You don't get winded as quickly. You can maintain focus under pressure a lot easier. So there's a lot of benefits to that. Thank you for that question. All right, let's see here. Eric, hey, man. So, of course you weren't smart. I could see this story going, yeah, I know, Eric. Let's see here. Thank you, Eric, for that comment. That's very nice. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Hey, man, hey, my main man, Jess. 2 questions. First, so this is Shane Walker. First question, doing the Wim Hof breathing in bed, is it best to have your head elevated under a pillow or to lay completely flat? Second question, what is the best breath cadence to slow down your heart rate? Okay. So first one's a Wim Hof Method question. The other one is a breathwork question. So Wim Hof Method, here's the thing. So, and here's why I sometimes don't like the internet. I get comments sometimes on my videos. I'll give some piece of advice. Based off of my years of study, practice, and experience, right? And then someone will point out some random video they saw where, especially when it comes to Wim Hof Method, this is normally what I get, where they saw Wim do it the other way, or where Wim said something and they're like, hey, you should get it from the main source. Well, first of all, where do you think I learned it? Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you. And then there is a video of Wim Hof pillow. Okay, and when I saw that, I was like, why are you doing that? But here's my advice. Okay, for any kind of breath work, we'll just including Wim Hof Method. I recommend the most important thing is that you want to have a uninterrupted breath path. Okay, so this may mean different things to different people. It may mean that you need to have a pillow. It may mean that you don't. For most people, having no pillow is better, because for most people, flat on their back and they have an uninterrupted breathing path. For some people, they need a little something. Okay, so that is basically the gist of it. I would recommend not using it, using a pillow, but it's something that you should kind of experiment with. Comfort is an important thing as well. So, but yeah, you want to have an uninterrupted breathing path. The second one is, what is the best cadence to slow down your heart? The slower, the better. The slower, the better when it comes to breathing. And the problem is that you get diminishing returns, and you can actually go the opposite direction. You can actually kick up your heart rate if you go too slow, because it has to do with your carbon dioxide tolerance. So technically, the slower you breathe, the better. However, so I would say, first of all, find out where you are. Find out where you are. Take some time to observe your breathing. Okay, so just take some time. Where is my breath? And sometimes it's hard to observe your own breath. I get that. But just take some time to observe your breath and see where you are in your breathing. And then what you want to try to do is even your inhales and your exhales out. That's your first step. So even the inhale, even the exhale. Nasal inhale. And then on the exhale, you can do through the mouth. For most people, that makes it easier to lengthen the exhale. So what you're going to want to do is, the first thing you're going to want to do is balance between the inhale and the exhale. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is lengthen the exhale. So the inhale would stay the same, and then you lengthen the exhale. If you can do that comfortably, then you're going to lengthen the inhale and then have them balanced for a little while. If you can do that successfully, then you lengthen the exhale. Okay. And then you can keep working that way. But you never want to get uncomfortable during this. If you start feeling yourself, if it feels like you're uncomfortable doing it, throttle back. Okay. Throttle back to the previous thing. Okay. And then that way, because if you get uncomfortable, what happens is your nervous system is going to pick up that you're under stress, and then your heart rate's going to go up. So there's a few different ones. I wrote an article for, of all places, Testosterone Nation, and I give another technique that you can do. Check that out. Just Google Testosterone Nation, Jesse Coomer, and you can read my article. Maybe like it, share it. And then there's a video of me doing a breathing technique. I can't show you the breathing technique now because I'm sitting in a chair. It has to be done lying down. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. And we're getting close to when I have to get out of here, but let's see if we can do another one. Started Wim Hof, having trouble extending my breath hold. Any ideas? First of all, don't stress about it. Do not stress about this. That might be the first way to extend your breath hold. Secondly, relax. That's sometimes, especially when you first start, just relax. A relaxed body, is not using up all that oxygen. So the more relaxed you stay, so lie down, relax your shoulders, relax your face, relax everything in your body. And what you're going to notice is that you'll probably extend the breath time or the breath hold. Ultimately, the time of your retention isn't that important. It's just the important thing is that you're getting a retention. So don't stress about that too much. But basically, I would, if you want to try to lengthen the retention, try inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Try varying your speed. Okay. Maybe you're going really fast. Maybe you need to slow down. Maybe you need to lengthen the breaths out. Really, kind of play around with that and see what works for you. Because, and I'll tell you this, for me, it's changed. It's changed over time. So sometimes I will, I'll have and believe me, sometimes my breath holds are long, sometimes they're not. I don't time them anymore, but sometimes as I feel it out, I'm just kind of shooting for feeling lightheaded. Okay. I'm trying to shoot for that relaxed, that energy. It's this weird, relaxed, energized, charged feeling. And then sometimes that means I speed up. Sometimes it means I slow down. Sometimes it means I lengthen. Sometimes most of the time, I would say 9 times out of almost 9 anymore, I'm in through the nose, out through the mouth. I don't do much mouth breathing anymore. And hopefully my video that I was working on, I just got back from making a video, or at least filming a video. I got stung by a bee while I was making this. So that's the kind of love that I'm putting into these videos. But yeah, my video that I should be coming out with tonight, hopefully, as long as I have enough time to edit, is about mouth breathing versus nasal breathing. And so I really recommend nasal breathing. And so whenever it comes to Wim Hof Method breathing, anything where you're trying to do a lengthened breath hold with a relaxed lung, nasal breathing is going to activate your diaphragm. So it's going to give you, normally for most people, and again, this is where, if you want to find out more about your breath wave and things like that, work with a breath coach. But normally what that's going to do is give you better ventilation perfusion. Not to get all nerdy here, but hey, we're nerds. We're just having fun. So if I'm going to show you my Led Zeppelin shirt, but pretend, if I've got my lungs here and they come down, the bottom of your lung is actually where you get the most circulation. So the most blood circulation. And so you want to pull that breath down as far as you can. So, guys, this has been 45 minutes of fun. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's questions. I will be, if you have a question that I didn't get to, go ahead and you can go to my website, click on where it says contact us, and you can send me that question, or you can find me on Instagram or on Facebook. Instagram is actually a pretty easy way to get a hold of me and ask me questions. Last time, almost all my questions came from Instagram, so I kind of try to rotate a little bit. I am coming out with my book, a practical guide to breathwork. I've been working on this book for a while, and basically what it is, it's kind of just a no-nonsense book. It tells you kind of how our biology is kind of at odds with the modern world. Not just kind of, but it really is at odds with the modern world. And then it goes over, I give you, I don't know how many, at least, I don't know, like 20 different breathing techniques. I give you breathing sessions. I list kind of what each breathing technique does, what the purpose is for all these different techniques. And it's some pretty awesome stuff. So I hope so, at least. I don't want to get too braggadocious, but it's the book that I wish I would have had whenever I started with breathwork. So that was kind of what I was trying to do. I was trying to write something for myself, for my earlier self, and for everybody else who's starting, or maybe early on in your journey, especially. But even if you're not started, early on, maybe you'll pick something up. Hopefully you'll pick up a copy. It'll be on Amazon in paperback and ebook form on September 29th, if all goes well. So guys, thank you guys so much for being here. I'll try to do this another time. Lately I've been doing one of these every week, and it feels pretty good. So we'll see. Hopefully next week I'll get a chance to put one of these up. If not, well, then it'll be soon thereafter. Just watch out for it. And guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to go out there and be kind to one another. Bye-bye.